My dear colleagues, I'm Foad, and I'm going to give you a small demonstration on how to get started in Turnitin. Now, if you can see, this is my Turnitin instructor page. The first thing I do is I create a class by selecting this option, Add Class. Now it tells me what kind of class do you want. I select standard class name, let's say a temporary class. Enrollment key is something that you gives a password that your students need to access it. What subject area? You can select your subject area. Student level, perhaps undergraduate. And what is the end date? The start date would be automatically the day that you create the class, and you can submit this, and your class has been created. Now observe, you have got a class ID and an enrollment key. You need to have this information stored somewhere. Perhaps I'll copy and paste it over here because I need this information. I need to give this information to my students, so later on if they access my class to upload their assignments, they need a class ID and the enrollment key. So we can see that our class is created. Next step is, what we need to do is we select our class, and we add an assignment, okay, by selecting Add Assignment option. So here we can give our assignment title, for example, assignment 1. Point value is optional. You can write what is the point value for this assignment. Here the default option is allow only file types that Turnitin can check for similarity, perhaps Microsoft Word or a PDF and so on, which is the start date, which is the due date. Okay, what is the post date? The post date is the date and time students can begin viewing instructor feedback. Okay, we should remember that Turnitin is giving us help in deciding whether collusion has occurred. Okay, so perhaps what we can do is we can have a look and make a decision based on the feedback. Based on the similarity report, and then based on the similarity report we can give a feedback to the students. So we go to optional settings. This is important for our new assignment. If you have any special instructions, we type it over here. Do we allow submissions after the due date? By default it's no. You can change it. Do you generate similarity reports for submissions? Yes, that's the whole point. We select yes. Generate similarity report for student submission immediately, and it can overwrite the previous report until the due date. Okay, or you can say the first report is final. Or if you ask the student to, they can submit, they can see their similarity report and they can resubmit it. Depends on the assignment and what is the requirement. By default, you can select perhaps if the assignment requires they can overwrite the previous work, then you can select this. So they can overwrite the previous reports until the due date. Exclude bibliographic material from similarity index for all papers in this assignment. Yes. Exclude quoted materials from similarity index for all papers in this assignment. Again, yes. Exclude small sources. By default is no. Allow students to see similarity reports. Yes. Or no. Depends on you. Now this part is very important. This is submit papers to repository. If you say no repository, then the student's submission will not go to any repository. On the other hand, if you select standard paper repository, the student's paper will be submitted to a student paper repository. Uh, the reason you have to know about this is because if, for example, this is a student's first and final submission, for example, if we want to select immediately first report is final, then perhaps this would make sense. We would submit it to a standard paper repository. But on the other hand, if you select this option whereby the student can keep submitting uh, their assignment until the due date, then this is not a good option, because the second submission of the student would be showing 100% similarity. So you have to be careful, and you have to know that what is the requirement of the assignment. If perhaps it is can override reports until due date, then perhaps you have to select do not submit the assignment to a repository. Okay. If something like this happens, if by mistake it goes to a repository, have no fear. There is a way to remove it from the repository. Okay. For that, you communicate with me. You contact me, and then I communicate with Turnitin. And if everything is legit, then they can remove the paper from the repository. Now this option is when you are doing a similarity check, you want to do a check against Turnitin database, which is student paper repository, institution paper repository, current and archived internet, periodicals, journals, and publications. So it's going to check against this database. So it would be wise to select all the options so that your similarity index would be more complete. Online grading, or enable grammar checking, and so on. And it tells you, would you like to save these options as your defaults for future assignments? Now you can select this option or remove it so that it's not going to store this for your future assignments as well. Now that you are done with this, what we can do is we can submit this, and you see we have got our temp class and our first assignment called assignment 1 created. Now we have to tell students to go and upload their paper over here. Now how do we do that? We tell the students to go to the Turnitin website and go to login. When they are in the login to Turnitin, if they have got a login identity, they can straight away log in. If not, you ask them to go here, new user, click here, and ask them to select the student option. Now here, they can give the class ID. Remember the previous information, your class ID that I asked you to store it someplace so that you can remember your class ID and your enrollment key, that is your password for your class. The student will enter here, and then the student will enter their information, their first name, their last name, email address, confirm their email address, their new password, confirm their password. In short, they're creating an account for themselves on Turnitin. Once they do this and they select I agree, create profile, they will be directed to your assignment page immediately, and they can upload their assignment. Okay, so that would make things pretty easy for the lecturer. Okay, so I think that's about it. If you need more precise information about any aspects of Turnitin, please do not hesitate to email me. Thank you very much.